We decided to take the bus out for a spin today. We're going to go up to the Fred Meyer's, use our fuel reward points, and put some gas in it for our, well, diesel in it for our trip to Quartzite, and go run a couple errands. I got to track down a noise, wind whistle that's happening in my my door. So my wife's going to drive while I'm doing that. I want to get that sealed up before our 1,700-mile trip. So we made a stop at our local building supply, pick up a few items. Got the wife driving. Oh, look, a red light. So that means we're going to do a Chinese fire drill, and I'm going to take over. But she has to come to a full and complete stop before she pulls that yellow button. There she goes. So now I'm driving. You recording?
Uh-huh.
Let's see if we get some heat. Air horns? They were. Do you see those air horns on top of that truck?
Yes.
I should have tapped mine when we went by. Are getting some heat now. Thank God for that. I went ahead and downshifted there just to try and get a little more out of it on this hill pull. This indicates the speed. Getting it. 75 degrees is all. But it's a cold day. I got it in second right now for coldness hill. Might have been exceeding the speed limit a little bit there. So I was able to use this stethoscope arrangement, mostly just a rubber hose without the stethoscope piece, to try and find the whistling in my window. It's coming from this front section of doorway here. This seal appears to be in good shape. It's flexible still, except for just a little hole right there, and maybe another one down here that somebody put some silicone on. So I just wonder, I don't really feel the need to replace this because it is still flexible. So I'm thinking about putting some black silicone caulk on this spot right here. Maybe this little hole is making all my whistling noise. I don't know, it's just a theory. Well, I think the thing to do is seal this up right here. Take it out for another drive. See if that helps the situation at all. I don't want to replace it and have it not be the fix. Maybe it is coming from in this, where this window meets the frame here. Something else I did when I was attempting to chase this problem down before is I designed and 3D printed this new gasket for the bottom of my door. It's out of TPU. Goes along the bottom of the door here. It has a taper to it. So I was looking at the corresponding surface on the door. There appears to be, there's a little sharp burr here, or maybe where a rivet was, and that's what's caused the hole in the gasket over here on the door. Lines up perfectly with this shred here. So I can file that off a little bit. But now I'm looking up here. There's another one, but it has a little bit of material stuck underneath it. A little bit of material stuck underneath that head. And there's another one there. And another one up there. And there's a slight discoloration in the paint there. That is where the gasket, that's where it meets up against the door. can see where it's been rubbing down here, making contact. But yeah, I'm just wondering if there's supposed to be another mating rubber surface there that would help that seal up better. There's 4106ers out there. Us guys, if you know, comment and tell me. So after a run like that today, not very long, but I got it up to temp. It's a good time to check all the fluids and stuff. So, you know, I checked my tranny, temp, hot. Power steering fluids, really full of 1040. There's a sight glass back there. Can't quite make it out, but there is a sight glass there. It's really full. Engine oil's good, 3/4 of the way up. I want to address a question from a viewer. It came up yesterday about why my idle is set a little high. There is a mechanic here in Oregon named Joe who works on two-stroke Detroits, and he's used by some bus people here locally. He's the mechanic that came out and helped rescue Scott Crosby's bus when he got stuck here on a weekend with a dropped valve and no parts availability and whatnot. He came out here and gave us a hand with that. That's the same Joe. Anyways, I was complaining to Joe about how this engine sounded like a box of rocks at idle. And it was, you know, the gear train. The gear train was rattling quite a bit. And it's because all the various accessories are, you know, gear driven on here. And at about 500 RPM, everything's just not quite loaded up enough. You know, the alternator, the compressor, power steering, everything that sort of runs off of this gear train back here wasn't quite loaded up enough. And he suggested that we bump up my idle a little bit. And we did, and it no longer sounds like a box of rocks. We bumped it up to about 650. And, you know, I mean, it's higher than I was used to, but other people said it sounds fine. But basically, it just sort of tightens up the gear train, essentially, so that everything is just kind of loaded up a little bit all the time. It means that sitting in neutral before, with your foot off the brake on flat ground, before at about 500 RPM, the bus would not roll forward, or sorry, not neutral, in drive. In drive, with your foot off the brake at 500 RPM, on flat ground, the bus would not move on its own. Now you got to keep your foot on the brake, which, you know, I'm not complaining or anything, but it is, you know, propelling the bus at that point. You know, torque converters, you know, loaded up, transmissions loaded up, everything's, you know, wanting to go at that RPM. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm not complaining because I think it'll make my gear train last longer. So that's what that's about. I don't want to be busting any teeth off in my gear train because they're slapping back and forth in there and unnecessarily. So I digress, but that answers a viewer question from the video I posted yesterday.